In this video, I'm going to cover some time management tips for the MBE. The first tip is to focus on the highly tested areas of law. Not all areas of law are tested equally on the MBE, so some areas of law are worth more than others. You want to focus on the areas of law that are tested more frequently because that will allow you to get the most points for your study time. This does not mean that you should skip or ignore any topics, however. The next tip is to practice untimed and timed MBE questions. Many students think that they should jump right into practicing MBE questions under timed conditions. However, that is usually not the best approach. There's a lot of value in practicing MBE questions in an untimed setting, especially at the beginning of your bar exam preparation. Each week, spend some time answering MBE questions slowly and methodically. Although it may seem counterintuitive, slowing down and dissecting each question will train your brain to use the proper technique and help you to improve your speed and your MBE score. Then you can practice MBE questions under timed conditions, which will help you prepare for the timing you will face on exam day. The next tip is to review the areas of law that are more difficult for you. When you are reviewing MBE subjects, be sure to spend more time on those areas of law that are more difficult for you. For example, if you struggle with the pretrial motions in civil procedure, but you don't struggle with jurisdiction and venue, you should probably spend more of your study time on pretrial motions rather than spending equal time on these highly tested topics. You don't have to treat all MBE subjects or topics equally. Instead, focus on the highly tested areas of law that are more difficult for you. The next tip is to use real MBE questions released by the National Conference of Bar Examiners, or NCBE. This is a good way to maximize your study time because NCBE released MBE questions will better represent the types of questions you will see on exam day. You do not have to exclusively use NCBE released MBE questions, so if your bar exam review course provides invented questions, it is fine to use those questions as well. Just make sure to use real MBE questions as part of your MBE preparation. The next tip is have an MBE Scantron strategy. This is one of our MBE timing tips that can be helpful if you struggle with timing on the MBE and want to make sure you answer all the questions you are most likely to get right. For example, some students fill in the bubbles on the Scantron sheet as they answer each question. Other students prefer to fill in the bubbles after every few questions. Although we recommend filling in the bubbles as you go so you don't get off track, it is important for you to determine which method you will use ahead of time. One MBE Scantron strategy is a dot-dash system. Put a dot on your Scantron next to any question that you are not entirely sure of. Put a dash by any question that you really don't know the answer to or that you did not have time to read carefully. Then, when you are finished answering the questions, review all the questions with dashes next to them first. Then, if you have additional time, review all the questions that have dots next to them. This will help you prioritize the questions that you are most likely to answer correctly to help you maximize your score. The next tip is complete several timed exams before exam day. The best way to make sure that you have mastered timing on the MBE is to complete MBE exams under timed conditions. We recommend that you start by answering 33 MBE questions in an hour. When you feel comfortable with that, increase the time and answer 66 questions in 2 hours. Then move up to 100 questions in 3 hours. Additionally, some students find it helpful to divide their time on a practice MBE exam into 15-minute increments. After every 15 minutes, you should have answered 9 MBE questions. If you do this, you will have around 13 minutes to spare at the end of the exam. If you want to try this method, note that after 15 minutes, you should have answered 9 questions. After 30 minutes, you should have answered 18 questions. After 45 minutes, you should have answered 27 questions. After 60 minutes, you should have answered 36 questions, and so on. The advantage of thinking about your time in 15-minute increments rather than hour-long increments is that it is easier to speed up if you fall behind after 15 minutes than if you find yourself falling behind after an hour. Also, you may avoid the anxiety that comes with worrying that you are answering questions too slowly. The next tip is combat MBE fatigue. Answering MBE questions for 3 hours straight and twice in one day on exam day can be extremely fatiguing. This is known as MBE fatigue and can cause you to run out of time on the MBE. You may find yourself slowing down as you go through the MBE questions because fatigue can keep you from concentrating and remaining focused. This can make it harder for you to read the questions in a timely manner and cause you to spend more time on the answer choices than you should. If you struggle with MBE fatigue, here are some tips for combating it. Make sure that you are eating right and exercising during bar exam prep. Get enough sleep. If you are sleep deprived, it will be hard not to feel fatigued when you are taking a timed multiple choice exam. Also, consider taking a bathroom break during the MBE. Sometimes just getting up and walking around for a minute or two can make a big difference. If you want to do this on exam day, incorporate this tactic when you practice exams so that you can time it correctly, that is, at a time that you feel the most fatigued, and make sure that you don't run out of time. You might also try putting your head down and resting for 30 to 60 seconds. Sometimes taking a mental break and focusing on something else, like your breathing or even nothing at all, can re-energize you and help you reset your mind. Remember to study during the same time of day that you will be taking the exam. If you have been accustomed to studying all night and sleeping all day, you will probably feel fatigued when you take the real MBE. Get used to studying at the same time of day that the MBE is administered.